Hello and welcome to episode number 54 of the Ex-Boyfriend Recovery Podcast. As always, we are recording in that camera, and that camera. Yeah, I just wanted to do that so I'd be featured on the cameras. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about a question that we've really never covered before, and it took me a while to think about it because we have covered so many different topics. I mean, we've covered topics like religion, long-distance relationships, how to handle what goes on during the no-contact rule, and I was a little shocked when I got this question because initially when I first listened to it, I thought to myself, you know, we've covered that before. And then when I was looking to respond to the person who asked the question, I started looking through the website, trying to find something that we've talked about relating to this very thing, because it's a question that we get a lot. And no matter how hard I looked, I couldn't find anything. So you're probably sitting there wondering, well, what the heck is this question? Well, this question revolves around families. Let's hear it right now.
Hi, Chris. I was wondering if you could possibly do something on getting an ex-boyfriend back who broke up with you due to pressures from his family. Me and my ex come from different backgrounds, and his parents, specifically his mother, was extremely upset about our relationship. We were together a year and a half, and we had a really great relationship, but the pressure and constant fights between his parents, and towards the end, we fought over this. It just got to be too much, and he says he loves me a lot. He really cared for me. Our relationship is the best part of his life, but that he just couldn't do it anymore, and that he can't see us having a happy future because of the differences in our families, and that he fell out of love with me, but he just tells himself that to make it easier, and that he can't see himself being a part of my family. For me, there was no fight that I wouldn't fight for him, and I was always willing to be a part of his family's traditions and everything like that. And we had talked about serious things like moving in together and marriage. I just don't feel like this is a good reason to break up. I broke all the rules in the beginning, but now I've been on day 5 of no contact. But I just want to know if you think there's any hope to this, or I should really just move on.
Well, thank you so much for commenting, or rather leaving a voicemail for me. I really appreciate that. I know it takes a lot of guts and courage to kind of air whatever's going on in your life out there for the public to know. And I just realized that one of the things that I forgot to do was I forgot to mention that you obviously have a name, and you mentioned this name to me in your voicemail, but you also mentioned to the fact that you wanted to remain anonymous. So rest assured, from this point on, we are just going to refer to you as Anonymous. So, Anonymous, what is going on with your situation? It looks like his family doesn't approve of you. He mentioned that he was feeling a lot of pressure from his family to break up with you, and his mom especially disapproved of your relationship. You also mentioned that you were together for a year and a half, and the pressure from his family caused a lot of fights between him and them. And also, at the end of your relationship, it kind of carried over into your relationship. So I'm sorry for that. I know that's very, very unfortunate. He mentioned that he can't have a happy future because his family does not approve of you. And you're wondering if there's hope, and you have started the no contact rule. It seems like you made a few errors. I took a few notes here while you were talking. You made a few errors during the no contact rule, but now that you're kind of back on the bandwagon, you know what you're doing. You're on day 5 of the no contact rule. So, man, what the heck should you do if an ex-boyfriend disapproves of you and his relationship? Sorry, if an ex-boyfriend's family, I need to kind of enunciate my words here. All right, so the first thing I want to mention here is that this is a situation that we see a lot on ex-boyfriend recovery. And it's also a situation that I myself have had personal experience with, and also one of my best friends growing up has had personal experiences with. Except when you look at the two of us, me and my friend, I experienced my ex-girlfriend's family disapproving of me. And the funny thing is, on the flip side, my friend has experienced when his family has disapproved of one of his ex-girlfriends. So, I have some insight or some opinions on what to do when someone's family disapproves of your relationship. Now, I'm sure you're sitting there wondering, well, what the heck happened in your situation with your ex-girlfriend? So here's the lowdown. My ex-girlfriend and I, we dated for about a year. And it was my first serious girlfriend, and it was a high school relationship. So we weren't exactly mature on the most levels, but I seem to remember the gist of the situation going like this. Back in high school, where I went to high school, or back in the day when I went to high school 10 years ago, one of the things that we would do to stay relevant, I guess, in our significant other's mind was write notes in between classes. So during our classes, we would write notes to each other, and then when, after class would be over, we would see each other and we would exchange these notes. Pretty cute, right? And I seem to recall one day that the two of us got into an argument, probably about some guy that was hitting on her and her reaction to it, or jealousy on my part, I don't know. But the point of the matter, or the point of the story that I'm trying to tell you, is that she ended up apologizing in a note. So she ended up writing to me, "I'm sorry," and then I wrote back in a note to her, "I forgive you." Now, here's where things get a little interesting. About a month later, her family, I think her dad, went snooping around in her room, and he found one of these notes. And he found the note of the situation, which, honest to God, I do not remember what it was about. And all that was said by me was, "I forgive you." Now, this guy, this dad, being a protective father, which I can certainly understand because I'm a father myself, freaked out because, God forbid, why would anyone need to forgive his little angel? So what ended up happening was he ended up calling me on her phone. So he called me, and I remember when I got the phone call, it was him calling me, and it was her number or her name, however she came up in my phone. So obviously I picked up, and I thought I was going to be talking to her. And so I picked up, and I'm all cute, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, babe." But then I heard a male voice, and the male voice started screaming at me. And the male voice ordered me to come over to the house. And I don't remember what words, but I remember being very frightened and scared, and I didn't want to lose my girlfriend at the time. So, like an idiot, I drove over to his house. And he was, and I'll never forget it to this day, I have a very vivid memory of this incident, because he was on his lawnmower mowing his grass on his house, waiting for me to show up. Now, this is the guy for our prom who answered the door with an AK-47, okay? So he shows up, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what if he shoots me? I don't even know what I did. What did I do wrong? And he walks up to me, and he's got a very angry look. And he looks at me, and he says, "Do you know what you did?" And honestly, I looked back at him, and I said, "No, what did I do?" And he looks at me, and he goes, he pulls out a piece of paper out of his pants. "Read this." And I read the words. Like, he pointed at some words to me and said, "Read this." So I read the words, "I forgive you." And he flipped out. Why would she need to be forgiven? And, it just kind of went on like that. And then I posed a very simple question. Well, what was it that I needed to forgive her for? And he looked at me and he goes, "You know what? That doesn't matter." And he put the paper in his pocket. And I believe the way the situation turned out was I was not allowed to see her without him and his wife accompanying us. And that went on for a few months before inevitably I ended up breaking up with her. So her family did not approve of me, and that made things very, very difficult going forward, because having her family's blessing in a relationship was paramount to her. It was important. And I'll admit, having a family, especially your significant other's family, like you and be on your side certainly makes things better and easier in a relationship. But that's not the situation you're in, Anonymous. So the question now becomes, how can we take your situation where your ex-boyfriend essentially broke up with you because his family disapproves of you? How can we take that situation and get you to a point where he will not only get you back, but essentially not care about what his family thinks? In my experience, it will be very, very difficult to get to approach the situation where you're going to be trying to get his family to either forgive you or get on your side. In my experience, it will be very difficult to do that because people are set in their ways. And obviously the way to make him do something isn't to get his family on your side, because they are not on your side. So instead of focusing so much on his family, I would focus more on him, specifically how he feels. Now, how can you make him regret his decision? I've done the research. 90% of people admit that they have regrets. And I honestly feel, Anonymous, that he's going to regret his decision to break up with you because it's what his family wanted. He needs to kind of grow a spine here. And what you need to do is ask yourself a question, a very simple question. Do you want to be with a man who doesn't have enough spine to think for himself, who is just constantly listening to what his family says and doing what his family says, even if it isn't in his best interest? Because the only person who knows what's in his best interest is himself. He knows what he wants. His family doesn't know what he wants. So my strategy for you is going to really revolve around making him regret his decision of breaking up with you. It's going to actually alienate him from his family because he's going to feel very resentful that he missed out on what could have been the greatest thing in his life because his family didn't like her. Even when you've clearly shown effort on your part to adopt their traditional values, you've shown effort on your part to become a very nice member of their family, and they just won't have you for whatever reason. Now, I don't recommend getting into a fight with his family. I don't recommend even engaging them. Your sole purpose needs to be focusing on him and making him regret his decision to break up with you. So, how are we going to do that? Well, Frank Sinatra had this amazing quote once. The best revenge in life is massive success. And that's how you need to approach things right now. Everything that you do needs to be focused on making your life as successful as possible. Everything you do needs to be about enriching your life and becoming more complete as a human being, becoming more beautiful, more sexy, everything you can imagine to just improve your life, to become more successful. And when he catches wind of this, he's going to see what he missed out on. He missed out on what could have been his future wife. Now, how is he going to see that? Well, we already know from statistics that close to 90% of people will Facebook stalk their exes. And unless you're living under a rock, you probably are still friends on Facebook. And even if you're not friends on Facebook, it won't matter. The statistic still applies. He will still find a way to find your Facebook profile. So why not live this incredible life? Why not take pictures of this incredible life, of all the workouts you're doing, of all the incredible places you're visiting, of all the people you're meeting, of your friends having fun? And why not post that on Facebook for him to see that you are not totally reliant on him? Because right now that's what he thinks you are. Maybe you are too available. Maybe the fact that you want to adopt his family's traditions, maybe the fact that you want to get his family on your side shows that you care what they think. Maybe it's more attractive to him that you don't care what they think. So, Frank Sinatra, the best revenge in life is massive success. But another great way of making him regret his decision to break up with you is to utilize jealousy. Of course, jealousy needs to be approached with extreme caution. When I say jealousy, do not take it that I mean to find the first guy you can meet and make out with that guy. That's not what I mean. Utilize jealousy in a very subtle manner. Maybe the guys that you hang out with, take pictures of, post them on Facebook. Let him fill in the gaps of what you are or what you aren't. Oftentimes, subtlety is perfect with jealousy. Now, the other thing you have to understand here is making him regret his decision to break up with you isn't always going to be enough to make him take action. Oftentimes, you have to do other things for that to happen. But that's where the value chain, that's where ex-boyfriend recovery comes into play. We are all about making men take action. So you're doing a good thing right now. You said you're on day 5 of the no contact rule. That means you probably have 21 more days to go, or 21. I can't do math. 25 more days to go. Or if you're doing a 21-day no contact rule, please don't make me do the math. I suck at math. That's why I write for ex-boyfriend recovery. I can't do math. But fill in the gaps. If you're on day 5 of no contact, stay strong on the no contact rule, but utilize the Frank Sinatra effect. Make sure that you are making him regret his decision to break up with you. Influence him enough to take action. So here's the idea of how the whole strategy is supposed to work. He broke up with you because his family disapproves of you, right? Well, his family disapproves of you for who cares what the reason is. What you really care about is making him regret his decision, and you're in a prime position to do that. You're in a prime position to make him regret his decision of breaking up with you. And it's this regret or these feelings of regret that is going to spur him to take action. But oftentimes, making him regret the breakup isn't enough to make him take that action. Oftentimes, you have to do extra stuff. So on top of making him regret his decision of breaking up with you, Anonymous, you're going to have to utilize the value chain. You're going to have to do the no contact rule. Figure out the correct way to text him. Figure out the correct way to talk on the phone with him. Figure out the correct way to navigate dates. If you can do these things, you are going to have a substantially better chance of getting him back. And one of your question was, is there hope? Of course there's hope. I think you have a very good chance. Does that mean you'll get him back? No. But as long as you utilize the Frank Sinatra effect, you really work on yourself, you are going to get something out of this. It's going to be time well spent, even if things don't work out for you. But more often than not, people who listen to my advice end up doing pretty well when it comes to getting their exes back. Otherwise, I wouldn't have lasted this long online. People would be probably having all sorts of negative reviews, but they don't. All I tend to get are very positive reviews, and that's because the advice that I recommend to people has real life substantial proof. Either I have recommended it to people and they have gotten their exes back, or I can point to some psychological study done proving that what I'm saying is true. So that's going to do it for episode number 54 of the Ex-Boyfriend Recovery Podcast. I had a blast filming and recording this. Now, if you want to be featured on our podcast, a great way to do so is to go to the contact page on www.exboyfriendrecovery.com. And I also want to ask you guys a favor. If you like my content, if you like what we're doing here, helping women through breakups, whether it's to get over their breakups or get their exes back, could you please go to iTunes and leave me an honest review? Even if you hate the podcast, I still welcome your reviews. I don't want any kind of free advice, or I don't want any kind of paid cheap reviews. I want real reviews from people who legitimately like what I'm saying. But if you don't like what I'm saying, again, I welcome those reviews. So if you could just please go to iTunes and leave us an honest review. We really appreciate it. Thank you.